Hello, everyone. Live from Vienna, Austria, I'm Sister Vassa, and it's Saturday morning. I hope everybody is fine this lovely weekend. Lovely, hopefully, where you are, where we are, with two members of my crew present today. We have one young man to, that we have yet to introduce to you, who has recently joined our crew and will hopefully be joining me here on the show, but he's learning the ropes at the moment. So he will remain something of a mystery for a while, okay? So, what is going on in the church calendar, first of all? Let me tell you that it is quite an exciting month with a lot of great saints being celebrated this month of January, particularly from the long list of Hall of Famers, one can say, of church fathers. Now, tomorrow, on January 27th, the Serbian Orthodox Church, which happens to be older calendar, is celebrating the very first Archbishop of Serbia, the famous Saint Sava of Serbia. So this wonderful saint of the Serbian Church, who of course became the first Archbishop of Serbia in 1219, is tied to the not simple history of the independent status of the Serbian Orthodox Church, which, just a fun fact to tie in with the currently popular or not so popular topic of autocephaly, is an interesting case, I would say, as are really most of the so-called new patriarchates of the Orthodox Church, in that the Serbian Orthodox Church several times had a different status throughout its history. There was this archbishopric for which Saint Sava acquired the permission and consecration from the Mother Church of Constantinople. And then there was the Pitch Patriarchate that happened twice. Anyway, it's a complex history. Interestingly, for example, the Pitch Patriarchate, the first time around, was organized and founded by a state, a king, the king of Serbia, Stefan Dušan Nemanja, and this was legitimized almost 30 years later, the year I believe being 1426. Some of you history buffs can correct me if I'm wrong. I have to correct that, actually. Anyway, my mind right now is not working in numbers, but in any event, it was Stefan Dušan Nemanja who founded the first Patriarchate, and then about 27 years later, this was legitimized or recognized by Constantinople. But let me show you the Church of Saint Sava in Belgrade, because this is a big deal tomorrow, the Feast of Saint Sava. And here we have the beautiful cathedral that has now covered my face, just for your amusement. See, now my crew is chuckling. So the beautiful Church of Saint Sava in Belgrade. The Georgian Orthodox Church, also older calendar, everybody is celebrating tomorrow its most famous saint, Saint Nino, the enlightener of Georgia. Georgia, of course, the country, and not where they eat grits in the south of the United States. So Saint Nino, or Nina, as many will say, but I have a dear Georgian friend, happens to be a scholar of the Georgian tradition, and anyway, I say a happy name day to my dear friend Nino, who is a liturgical scholar and a theologian that is Georgian Orthodox. So I'm not going to tell you the stories of all these saints today, everybody, because we have quite a list. If you are new calendar, tomorrow I should mention that it's a little complicated. If you are in the OCA, so you do have some of the Russian saints also of newly canonized or more recently canonized Russian saints, then you will be celebrating tomorrow the new martyrs and confessors of Russia. Let's remove the Sava Cathedral here, my friends. So, what am I looking for, my friends? I am looking for the new martyrs icon. Here it is. So, the Russian new martyrs, those who suffered and witnessed to their faith in Christ in the face of the communist persecutions of the Soviet period. So, that will be celebrated in the OCA. For those of you not celebrating the new martyrs of Russia, you do have, all of you new calendar people, the memory of a great father of the church, St. John Chrysostom, the translation of his relics, of the return of his relics to Constantinople. And so that's probably what most of you will be celebrating tomorrow on the new calendar. But let us not neglect to mention that the list continues of exciting feasts of the fathers throughout this week for new calendar people. So I just want you to know that I told you about it first. It's breaking news right now that Monday, January 28th, new calendar, St. Ephrem the Syrian, and Tuesday, January 29th, St. Ignatius of Antioch, also known as the God-bearer. And we will be on our ongoing course on Patreon on the Church Fathers. We will be beginning our discussion of St. Ignatius of Antioch's life and his martyrdom and his famous epistles to the various churches, to which he sent epistles on his way to Rome from Antioch, where he was to be, and indeed was, martyred in the circus. Okay, so what else did I want to tell you? And of course, like the grand finale of all of these feasts of the fathers, on Wednesday, you people, new calendar people, will be celebrating the three holy hierarchs, a great feast indeed. Okay, so the three holy hierarchs, St. Basil the Great, Gregory the Theologian, Basil's best friend, and and John, I was going to say Gregory of Nyssa, Basil's brother, but no, for interesting reasons, he's not in this group. The third ecumenical teacher, as they're also known, is St. John Chrysostom. So keep in mind, even if you're going to work that day, as you probably are, because it's a Wednesday, that indeed the church is celebrating on the new calendar these great personages and voices of our tradition. All right, so, but what do I want to talk to you about today, my friends? I see, we have lots of you with us. Hello, everybody. I do have the parable on the talents to talk to you about, okay? So don't get upset with me. I'm going to discuss that. It's a little bit long, right? So I think everybody knows it. It's not only, we don't only have it passed down to us in Matthew 25, but also in the Gospel according to Luke. But I'll quickly say hello to you people, and then I just want to say a few words about that parable, okay? I don't know if we're going to read through the whole thing, because I think most people will know about the parable. But I think that it's an important, it's an important word to us from the Lord, who knew that we have problems with following what is called our vocation. We have problems with fear, the kind of merely human fear that often will lead us not to live up to our potential, not to sit up straight or stand up straight and do the next right thing, right? But to bury in the ground a lot of what it is God has given us of his goodness that we should be sharing with other people, okay? And how to overcome that fear, and how that kind of, self-isolating lack of productivity comes from really a lack of faith in God, a lack of faith in that what he has given us is good, and the fact that we have the capacity to, in him and in communion with him, be vessels of something called grace. Okay, and grace comes to us in different measures in this beautiful world that God created, and according to how He saw fit, how it is distributed, right, in this mysterious body of Christ called the church. So Ben Sirach, good morning to you, and Ron McBride. Everybody's saying good morning. Yvonne and Bob Kervanis, good morning. Yvonne's from Luxembourg, our dear friend. Declan Moore is here from Eire, E-I-R-E. Is that correct?
Eire, that's Ireland.
Oh, Juliet is telling me that's Ireland, and it's Eire?
Eire, yeah.
Eire. Hello, Declan. Good to see you. Amy S. Glory to Jesus Christ. Glory forever. Lynn Tomlinson is with us. Hello, Lynn. Good morning, Sister Vassa and new young man. He's very pleased to be greeted. I am in South Dakota today, she tells us. Well, hello to you down in South Dakota. Sarah Hodges, good afternoon from Sarah. Good afternoon to you, Sarah, as well. Phil Harwell has retracted his message. Well, Phil, we have that noted for some reason. Andrei Tarasov. Hello, Sister Vassa. What is your opinion on autocephaly of Ukraine? Oh, thanks for that question, Andrei. I'm dying to talk about that so that I can alienate at least half of the people. But fun fact is that yesterday I was at the big Austrian radio station who asked me for an interview. They'll probably use like 1% of my ramblings about this in German. But yes, we went with one of my assistants to ORF 1, ORF, this big building they have here in Vienna. And so they're only going to air it sometime at the end of March, but they're perplexed. The outside world, as far as outsiders to Orthodoxy, they're asking me questions like, well, how do you in the Orthodox Church understand yourselves as one, and what is Orthodox Christianity, and how is, what are the roles of your various patriarchs? So, all of these things are like, well, do you have a few days, I said, so we could just discuss this in all its intricate detail. So, when they asked me, I would give, some of the articles of the creed as to what we understand the church to be, and where it is that we find the source of our unity and indeed our focus, regardless of the historical vicissitudes of those things that are not issues of dogma, regardless of how people would like to say, oh, this is something that fundamentally, when there's a disagreement about church administration, indeed, of course, everything has to do with deep spiritual phenomena and the human beings involved in making decisions, right? Which only God sees the hearts of men. But what I want to say is that, if you're not totally innocent of church history, first of all, this is not something that's never happened. You'll really be hard put to find issues of church status or independence changing without there being a problem. Okay? You have, and I'm not claiming, to have the answers to this, but do I know that this has happened before? Do I know that the Church of Greece, for example, proclaimed its own autocephaly in 1833, that this was only recognized by the Mother Church Constantinople in 1850? I'm not making it up, everybody. Do I know that something very similar happened in other cases? I've already started to go into the case of the Church of Serbia, probably named a false date, so somebody's going to write to me about that. Please do. It's fine. Going back to the church in Serbia, we have the Karlovac autocephaly, by the way, in the north of Serbia, actually founded in 1710 by the Habsburgs. not a church authority, even an Orthodox one. But we have many problematic issues of autocephaly. It's a cross of history that we carry because the word autocephaly, my friends, is not even mentioned in the canonical codex shared by all the Orthodox churches that is complete already at the end of the 9th century. So the common canonical codex never mentions the word autocephaly. And although we do have canonical principles we can glean from the holy canons, their interpretation is often contested. And the kind of council that could come together and that would have the authority to give the rendition of these canons, for example, of Canon 9 of Chalcedon or Chalcedon. Canon 9 of Chalcedon seems to say in black and white that the Patriarch of Constantinople can be this court of appeals. Now, there are other things to be said to that, but if one even looks at the medieval commentators or the 12th century commentators, with respect to that canon, there is not a question that the Patriarch of Constantinople can function, and this is how he understands it, right, as an appellate sort of instance in cases when bishops are disagreeing with their head bishop elsewhere. But I'm not, see, I know it's very hard not to step on any toes, especially of my own church, discussing this very painful issue of something as dear to the heart of every Russian Orthodox Christian as the orthodoxy or Christian faith, indeed, that was received by our ancestors in Kiev before there was the geopolitical, situation of later periods. So it's, Russian church culture, Russian church singing, for example, was completely changed, taken over from that region of the Kiev Metropolia very suddenly after the mid-17th century, addition to Muscovite Rus of, the previously Polish subordinate to Poland area, after 1654, when Ukraine was added by the will of the people there to Rus. Soon after that, for that political reason, one can say, naturally, the Metropolia of Kiev was also made subordinate to the church in Moscow. So, brought under one jurisdiction, more or less. And here's the problem. You see, political realities do affect church realities. It's always been that way. Now, again, I'm not, trying to argue a certain side, but I'm trying to see the various attitudes towards this question, and that they do find their basis in certain canonical principles, and also in certain historical realities that are very close to the hearts of people involved, like the very, I have to say, vibrant intertwining of church cultures from that region and of Muscovite Rus, like the fact that in Muscovite Rus we completely dropped the previous tradition of singing that we had and fell in love with what we called then Italian singing, coming to us from Kiev. Also, the education that was already flourishing in the Theological Academy at Kiev, and the learned monks that came over from there became many leading bishops were these educated monks that came from that region. And in this time period, like Saint Dmitry of Rostov comes from there. One can name many others. illustrious figures of Russian Orthodox Church history that contributed a great deal. And also theological education comes to Muscovite Rus. And what is the language? I've already told you this here before, in which theological academies taught when they were finally opening up in Muscovite Rus later than they were in the Kievan region. Well, seminarians were taught in Latin, everybody, for several centuries in the Russian Orthodox Church because of those educational institutions that were opened already in the Kievan region according to the model of Jesuit institutions in the West. And so, am I saying this is either a good or a bad thing? No, but it's a historical fact that when, for various historical reasons, a systematic education was not to be found in the East, okay, there was not the possibility, say, of going from Moscow, say, to Athens or to Constantinople to get an education. This was a time when most of the Orthodox East found itself under the Turkish yoke, all right? And so where there was the need felt for education, the Orthodox looked west, okay? And those who did that before they did so in Muscovy were those in Kievan Rus, further south. And so back then, our ancestors were not scandalized or hesitant to learn from the Latin West. Because of historical vicissitudes, the West had something to offer by way of education. All right, so what was it that we even started talking about? I don't even remember. But all of these are fun facts anyway, right? So what do I think of the whole thing? I think that this has all happened before and that we're all going to be okay. You know, it's not something that's, like the great, schism, as some call it, of 1054. No, it's not. It's happened before. Autocephaly is a problem. Do I think that it's, either wrong or right? I don't, I have neither the, consecration that bishops have that have to be responsible for these things, nor the grace to decide them. So as someone who studies church history, I am simply saying, that I look at something like Canon 17 of the Council of Chalcedon that says that the political and local, that the church's administration shall follow the political realities. It says, if you read Canon 17 of Chalcedon, tis politikis ke demosis typis ke ton ecclesiastikon ke paricioni taxis akaluthito shall follow. So there's that principle. We see it in play that the church is not aiming at taking on, or fighting somehow the military, say, some of the military challenges and situations that are not her creation. But it's very hard not to have to somehow deal with the consequences of those conflicts and, state conducted, strategies or, say military campaigns or military defense and these things. But, the church has to try to find unifying strategies to help people maintain their spiritual health amidst these conflicts. Now, I believe that our church leaders on both sides of this issue believe that they are accomplishing that. So it's not for me to decide, who is. I'll tell you one thing. I don't see a clear villain here. I see a problem with actually coming together and deciding this, and I see it to be stemming from a certain dysfunctionality of that synodal, this conciliar decision-making process, and it makes me, it makes me, it humbles me, I have to say, to see that we are not perfect when it comes to this. So one prays, right? But one feels like, I said this to you guys before, I feel like a child that's in a family that somehow might be thinking about, divorce and feeling a little bit helpless and pained by the situation and hoping that, that my parents make up and don't separate. So that's the best I have for you, my friends. Listen to my interview in German if you want to know more with an Austrian radio station. You've hit the big time, everybody, when you're at an Austrian radio station. You guys get paid to laugh at my jokes and you're not laughing. So now they laughed. It's too late. It's too late. You missed the moment. All right. So look, who else is with us? I know I was going to talk about the parable of the talents. I almost said terrible of the talents. Ha ha ha. One of my crew members made a joke before we started the show. They said, "Oh, Sava, is that what autistic people call you, Vassa?" Ha ha ha. Does everybody think that's funny, or do you think that's totally not PC? You're like, you made that joke, not me. Okay. Anyway, they don't have to know the whole story. Sarah Hodges from Chiang Mai, Thailand. Oh, am I mispronouncing that? Usually my very international crew lets me know these things. Hello, Sarah Hodges from Thailand. Andrei Tarasov. Oh, Andrei Tarasov, it's your fault that I even went on that whole tirade. Thank you for the words about Saint Sava, says Yvonne, dear Sister Vassa. You're welcome. Ben Sirach, I think Saint Xenia of Petersburg was celebrated this week. Well, it's really a lot of great saints. Saint Tatiana was celebrated yesterday, so there's a lot of saints, and I haven't mentioned all of them, my friends. Cynthia's here. Good morning, she says, from Folsom, California. Hi, Cynthia. Phil Harwell, hello to you. Good morning, Sister Vassa. And Bert Noyes, good morning, sister and all friends. Shannon Mary. Hello, Shannon Mary. She's saying, good morning, Sister Vassa. Juliet, new intern, and coffee drinkers. They're all smiling back at you, Shannon Mary. Lynn Tomlinson is confirming that St. Xenia was on Thursday. Ben Sirach, I'm not Orthodox, but I hope to join and make her my patron saint. All right, so Ben Sirach will be named Xenia. Well, all right. You be you, Ben. Anne Cantrell. Sister, it's morning, live. Hello, Anne Cantrell. All right, not PC. Dyslexic, says Shannon Mary. All right. Okay, so moving on, everybody. We all survived that. Sister has to take her meds and we'll all be fine. Now they laugh when I look at them. They're like, oh, okay. Were we supposed to laugh? You're getting better at that, new intern. All right, you guys, let's look at this a little bit, all right? Let's look a little bit so that this show isn't all nonsense, all right? We're going to look a little bit at the parable of the talents. Yay, I can hear you cheering. Calm down now, because it's distracting me, all of the applause. Here we go. So, here's how the parable begins. Everybody knows it, but I'm going to read it anyway. Matthew 25. Now, I'm going to be talking about everybody that this might seem a little bit harsh, okay? That's going to be my sort of springboard to start with. And then, having built that straw man, I'm going to knock him down and say, No, it's not harsh. All right, here we go. So our Lord tells us this parable. For it will be as when a man going on a journey called his servants. So the man calls his servants. Very important word for Christianity. Ekalesen, his servants. So to be called out is to be part of church. Ecclesia comes from the word ekaleo, yes? We are those called forth, called out. So he calls his servants and he entrusts to them his property. And to one he gives 5 talents, to another 1, and to the third one, to another he gives 2, to the last one he gives only 1, to each according to his ability. Now a talent is a big chunk of money, everybody. It's not a talent as in English talent, right? A talent was actually worth, although you find different info in different sources, and I'm not an archaeologist or whatever you're supposed to be to know this, but it's about 6,000 denarii, right? And what a talent was worth for a common laborer or an average worker was 20 years, everybody, of wages, because 1 denarius was actually the daily wage of a common worker. So this is a lot of money, even getting only 1 so-called talent. And it's like a heavy chunk, you could say, of change. All right. It's also heavy, like the responsibility given to us by having something called a calling or vocation. All right. So it's both, it is a blessing, but it has that weight of God's trust put into each and every one of us with whatever it is he gave us. All right. And so this is a certain measure of something called grace. All right. So we, if we have our heart open to that, no matter how external stuff might be going wrong for us, in communion with God, we have this focus in following something called vocation, which comes not from deep inside ourselves, right? It comes from God. And so this is, Christ talks about his burden being, his yoke be, I'm sorry, I don't know these texts in English, my friends. That his burden is light and his yoke is easy. So it is in the lightness of God's grace that we find indeed light, that there's a lightness even to hardship in communion with God. But burying our talent in the ground, right, because we don't see the point and we're crippled with the fear, not only of self-doubt, everybody, but ultimately mistrust of God. Because, see, this bad servant who ends up, you know the story, he will bury his talent in the ground because he doesn't see the point. But what he especially sees is that really that his master is a bad guy. So let's read on. Then, so the master gives as he sees fit to his servants part of his possessions, and he goes away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them. So he shares of these talents in a special way, but doesn't just, hide them or keep them to himself. And he made 5 talents more. That's the nature of God's grace. When you give it away, that's when you receive. It's one of those things. It's all over Scripture. Yes? The widow who feeds the great prophet Elijah during the famine, she finds that the jug in which she had the oil and the container where she had the flour were multiplied because of her giving it to the prophet. Then we see the multiplication of the loaves and of the fish. This is God teaching us the nature of his kind of having. Yes, when we recognize that we indeed have of his gifts, yes, we don't succumb to the blindness, or what is called at the end of this parable as the outer darkness, yes, of being blind to God's goodness, right? And what we are called to do is participate in that creative flow of energies, everybody, of God's goodness, of not sticking our gifts or our own heads in the sand, all right, and saying, what's the point? I'm just little old me. Pour me, right? Pour me a drink. That's what people say. That's not the answer. All right, so look. But he who had received one talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. I know I'm skipping here some vital moments probably. Now, after a long time, this is important, everybody, in this whole message, the master of those servants came. So we don't know exactly the time when he comes again, right? But the fact is that they are held accountable. Very important. God respects us. He trusts us, first of all, with what he gives us. He shares. What is he sharing with us? Of himself, everybody. He shares of himself. He trusts us. He's not sitting there policing us, by the way. He went away, right? And he comes, and of course, Christ is the one who comes again and again. I know we're used to saying, that he will come again, as if it's only once. But he is the one who comes. We believe in the one who comes. Kepalin erhomenon metadoxis. All right, so he comes again and again into our lives. And we are like the faithful servants who are always open to his surprise appearances, okay? So after a long time, the master comes and settles accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents comes forward, bringing 5 talents more. Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. So this is about joy, everybody. Joy is on offer. The way of the cross, everybody, our cross, that is also our blessing. That is our vocation. It is the road of lightness and also towards light. Now look, we have quote number 3 here. Now, here's where we find out, not about the master being a bad guy, but about the perception of this non-contributing, slothful and wicked servant. Sometimes it's totally non-contributing people, afraid to make any mistake or to have any success either. And a lot of us have been in that rut. I'm not just talking about someone else. I'm not only talking about you guys. My poor millennials here, they think we're always talking about them. What's the song? You're so vain. That was really out of tune, but the song always sounds. You probably think this song is about you. All right, everybody. All right, sister, don't sing to us again. I've been doing it like every show now. Oh, look, we got more live viewers now. It's not because of that little performance, is it? So listen, he also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward saying, now this is what this guy says, and can you believe it? Who does he think he's talking to, right? Anyway, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not winnow. So I was afraid. Very important. He's afraid. He's all about fear, not faith. And I went, but first he accuses the master. You see, it's the master's fault because he he's saying, you didn't really work for what you have. There's envy here, right? This guy doesn't have anything, but he's also not willing to roll up his sleeves and do something with the little that he has, right? Even though it's not that little, as I've explained, 1 talent, right? So he says, so I was afraid. It's always easy to criticize, those people who supposedly have what I don't have. They don't deserve it, Anyway, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what's yours. So he's like, here, I don't need your stinking money. But his master answered him, "You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sowed." And, oh no, see, the intonation should be different here. He says, "You knew that I reap where I have not sowed and gather where I have not winnowed." This is like if you say, oh, you know me, do you? You understand? This guy doesn't know anything. How is he supposed to know his master? He doesn't know himself. In fact, he was given a whole talent. This, this heavy chunk of change. He didn't sow that, right? In fact, it's the other way around from the way this slothful servant says. God shares his gifts with us, gifts that we didn't sow. He gives to us abundantly. All right? But to turn it around and project our own, self-loathing onto God is what sometimes we choose to do. Because the glass is always half empty. If I get stuck, if I get stuck in fear rather than embrace faith, and faith opens my eyes to God's blessings. And what is that eye-opening experience, everybody, that makes me see suddenly God's blessings? It's called gratitude, right? And a grateful heart tends to attract more blessing. And I know that's true because I heard a fat actress say it in an interview recently. It was a great line. She's, she plays in that show called, it's not that recent, by the way. I heard it before and I think I told you about it, but she's this fat actress who plays, are you guys going to get mad at me for calling someone fat? It's really sad about the triplets,
Oh, This Is Us.
This Is Us. So the actress, very interesting woman actually, and she talks about how her life started multiplying in blessings when she became grateful and stopped being bitter and resentful about everything, And I think that's true. I think that you multiply sort of the misery. And this is what our Lord is talking about. The misery that comes to this person. It's not because God is angry and, needs to get it off his chest by making us miserable. He's telling us that we bring this upon ourselves by being this way. We're given something like a talent and reacting in this way and also insulting our master while we do it. Why, we're bringing it onto our own heads to be miserable. He says, you knew that I reap where I have not sowed, and so on. Then you ought to have invested my money. It's like, well, if you knew so much, at least you could have, done this. Invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. And here's the final thing. Is this the final quote? No. It's not. This, of course, everybody, it's a parable, right? So it's metaphorical. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given. Who are the ones who have, everybody, and who are the have-nots? Well, those are the have-nots who refuse to see, open their eyes and see that indeed they have. All right? But those who are cognizant, yes, of God's abundant grace will receive more, because that's the nature of grace. It multiplies in communion with God. And then he says, and cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. Outer darkness, everybody, this blindness to our own true character, to the true character of our loving God, and to all the possibilities, even at least just to do the next right thing, right? We could just say, being like this guy was, it's all pointless. Why should I even get out of bed, right? I'm going to sit and binge watch Netflix, all right? So you guys are like, it's not that bad, sister. There men will weep and gnash their teeth. So also this image, right, of weeping, gnashing teeth, getting stuck in what? Stuff like envy, thinking oh, that guy has it better than I do. What's the point of me trying? He was just in the right place at the right time, and all of this other nonsense. You know what I'm saying? I just have it bad. I have it bad. And gnashing their teeth, that's an image also related to that kind of hell that can already be our situation here, if we choose that, of resentment, stuff like that. All right. Was that all interesting for everybody? I have to stop now. 45 minutes already. My friends, are you still with me? Let me see who's made it this far. I'm going to say goodbye, my dear friends. Oh, did I tell you today? Wait, let me remove quote number 4 here. Everybody, wait a second. Before I show you this beautiful fashion accessory that is our Lenten book that you want to throw in your bag and let it stick out a little bit because it's colorful and will just show people that you dare to be different. You dare to accessorize with our Lenten book. But seriously, everybody, Lent is not that far away. In fact, let me tell you, Lent will begin. When is it beginning, everybody? Well, the Triodion will begin already on February 17th. This is a book of reflections for every day of Lent. It's a petite little mini book. You could take it with you, and you have just a little reflection for every day of Lent. You will like it. Are you guys certain they will like it? They're certain. They're guaranteeing it. So these two invisible people here, not invisible to me, are guaranteeing that you will like it. Okay? You take it up with them if you don't. So there it is. It's a beautiful book. Get it here. Where can you get it? Actually, they really are selling like hotcakes this week because I already promoted it last week. Here is the gift shop of our website. Get it here, okay? Be prepared for Lent. Did I ever tell everybody when the Triodion is beginning on February 17th? That is the Sunday of the Publican and Pharisee. It's not that far away. And because the book is ordered from us here in Vienna, you want to order it nice and early. So get it. Everyone's getting it. Book Lent with Sister Vassa. Wait a minute. Reflections for every day of Lent. I know there's the light reflection, so you can't see it that well. Get the Lenten book, everybody. It's the thing to get. All right. What else do I have to tell you? Before I go, do sign up for our Church Fathers series of talks. People are really liking it right here on Patreon, okay? Our next father that we'll be discussing, very relevant to church events today, we are finding. We just finished St. Clement of Rome, his epistle to the Corinthians. We're going on this week to St. Ignatius of Antioch, the second of the Apostolic Fathers, okay? So sign up here. Do not hesitate. You will really enjoy it. It's fun. It's informative and hopefully inspirational, okay? You don't want to be not in the know, right? You'll be stuck in the elevator, perhaps, with some weirdo who wants to know more about church fathers. And then you're going to be like caught off guard. You're going to be like, I don't know. Google it. And then the weirdo will be like, I have no connection here. And then what? And then what? You'll come running to me crying and I'll say, I warned you. You should have signed up for the course, right? So remember that I warned you. So what else? The last thing I'll tell you, everybody, my crew is in despair. They're like, she's never going to end. She's never going to end. I will. Look, I'm going to be in New York, all right? In New York in the first week of Lent, actually, the end of the first week. Not the best time to travel, probably, right? Sister, should be at home, not gallivanting about the world. But I'm going to be, wait a second, where's the Syracuse church, everybody? I don't think we put it up, did we? All right, we are experiencing operating difficulties. I prepared a picture. It's okay, they will all be fired right after we get off the show. So I'm going to Syracuse, New York, to St. Sophia's Greek Orthodox Church to give a talk, both on March 16th and March 17th.
Yeah.
All right, March 16th and March 17th. But I'll be in the States until
The 24th.
the 24th. So mark your calendars. If you would like for me to come to speak at your church, this would be a good time for me to do it, everybody. Why? Because I'm already going to be in the United States. Well, if you are in the United States. If you are in Zimbabwe, don't invite me then. Wait until I'm back here. All right. Everybody, I'm going to say goodbye to the last of you. Last but not least of you. All right. Declan has said that I'm fat shaming. I know. Well, what can I do? I'll work on some other form of shaming. We don't have anybody from Embarrass, Minnesota today. They're the masters of this, really. Of embarrassment. All right, everybody. I've lost track. I will read all your comments when we finish, however. Okay? Because I've missed a whole bunch. John Leoditian, Jazerlights is with us. I'm sorry, everybody. I have to go. Greg Trainer, hello. I love you, Sister Vassa, he says. So beautiful. Thank you, Greg. I know you're talking about my outfit. Sally Pitt, many blessings to you and your crew, says Sally. Thanks, Sally. Looking forward to seeing you in Syracuse. Oh, Sally's going to be there. All right. So, everybody, did I miss anyone? Jazerlights. Okay, I think I've said hello to everybody. I'm sorry that I'm missing somebody. Mary Louise Lambert, greetings from San Francisco. Walk for life here today. My Leben at 11:30 Civic Center. All right, good for you, Mary Louise Lambert, and for the Walk for Life. Shannon Mary, yes, remember when music was injected in the podcast a few years ago. All right. Sarah Hodges, we've already said hello to you. All right, everybody, I am going. I'm going. Okay, everybody, I'm saying goodbye. I love that we have a town named Embarrass in Minnesota. That's great. All right, Ben Sirach. I am going. Everybody, have a good week. Sign up. Join us here where all of the action continues and the excitement continues on our audio podcast. And we do have a new Divine Liturgy video out for you that was posted this week about the Divine Liturgy, Lecture 38. So follow that as well. Where can you do it? Here at patreon.com. Goodbye, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. I love all of you people. Please pray for us. I really appreciate that. And I will see you next time, same place. Bye.